you get to the point where you just like, it's the bane of my existence.
Just get rid of this.
Yeah, you want to just get rid of it. There's a difference in the blue tape, or there's different types of painter tape. You got to use the expensive blue tape to tape stuff off.
Otherwise, you get lines, inconsistent dabbing.
Yeah, it bleeds through, and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's a disaster. I look back of the couple hundred homes that we purchased doing this over the last 4 years or so. 90% of them are folks that just wanted the convenience.
Yep.
They only wanted the easy process.
Kobe Sway here with Adam Briley, like usual. And today's topic is going to be instant offer.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a way the market seems to be moving towards or going back towards. We're hearing a normalized market. What's crazy is we've been seeing real estate agents saying the house didn't sell and it's been 4 days.
Yeah.
Or it's been a week.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of those calls and texts from either team members or other agents in the marketplace, and they're like, and I look it up, and it's like, well, it's been on for 7 days or 10 days or whatever. And yeah, I mean, I just did a market update just to talk about that real quick. I just looked at the data, and so Millard is a weird one for some reason. Listing inventory in Millard School District alone, this is all price ranges, increased by 140% from the previous month. Now
we're in June right now, 2024.
June, but this is technically May's data, because we're always a month behind on getting that data. And most Elkhorn, Papillion, Bellevue, all the rest of the school districts, as I was doing it by that was probably like, I think the biggest increase was like 30% increase in listing inventory. It might have been a little bit more, depending on where it was. And then also we're seeing pending home sales are dropping. So March and April, we saw a nice spike compared to the previous months, obviously, but even the year prior at that time. But then, what May is when the storms kind of happened around here. So that probably had an effect. Of course, interest rates are always affecting that too. But we definitely, May is when you started seeing this downward trend on sales. And I was just talking to a seller before this, and, in some areas, there was as much as a 54% decrease in sales.
Wow.
So inventory is climbing. So it's giving buyers more options. But there's definitely a lot of cold feet. There's buyer deals falling through. And we've kind of dealt with that fall through, started 2.5 years ago, kind of when COVID market ended.
Yep.
Just buyers started realizing like, gosh, should I be doing this with the higher rates? Is this the house? There might be a better house they want to try to buy. So definitely higher fallout rate. But just overall, there's more options and just not as many sales happening right now. And again, is that because the storms happened, then you had school getting out, and then you have sort of summer vacation. Families are getting used to that summer routine with their kids at home, figuring out what their kids are going to be doing and all that, which I think is pretty normal. It was just a bigger drop in home sales, pending sales, that I think everyone is expecting. So what happens is sellers are starting to be like I have a house, it's a higher priced home for the market, and it's been on for 18 days, so not too terribly long, but it's still, with that, you got to make sure you're communicating that with your clients and educating them of what's going on. And that's my biggest advice to any agent on our team or anyone, is like, just educate your sellers of what's going on in the marketplace. And it's also good to educate your buyers too, because you might be able to negotiate a better deal. My sellers too said, hey, bring us an offer. That's always a common thing I hear, is like, why don't they just write an offer, right? I don't actually have a solid answer for that. Like, well, I wish buyers would just put something on paper.
But then it feels more committed, like I gotta go through.
Yeah, and then
they get mad about the fall through rate.
Yeah, but then also too, like, buyers are like, well, whether it's they only want to work with motivated folks or bring me an offer might mean 10,000 to one seller, and to that a buyer might mean 50,000 off.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the other hard thing too. A buyer doesn't know what is their limit that they can do or can't do, and the seller's thinking the same thing too. So that's kind of what's going on in the market. I think it's always good to look at that and then educate your clients of what's going on there. But with that, a trend that I've seen for really the last like 4 or 5 years, and this has been a trend well before us, is, there's different terms: instant offer, iBuy. If you ever hear the term iBuy, that is like an instant buyer, is the way I look at that. And there's a ton of iBuy companies. Even Zillow did it. What did Zillow call theirs? Is it just it was their iBuy program?
Yeah, I thought it was just Zillow's iBuy.
Yeah.
They partnered with another company.
Yeah, but they did it, and obviously it didn't pan out too well for it. They lost like $500 million one year, so they kind of got rid of doing that. But
and a lot of companies have jumped in and jumped out and realized like it's, there are patterns and trends. And like you said, not to stop your train of thought, but this is all patterns and trends, and they change all the time, and it depends on market conditions, rates, maybe storms, summer vacations, winter, right? Like this isn't anything new. It's just a matter of like adapting and making sure the realtors are educated and clients are educated at that time. Because again, we might be talking something different in a month.
Yeah, totally.
Right. So
yeah, well, that's what I was just telling my sellers. Like unfortunately, you just got to react in a market like this. During COVID, it didn't matter. Everything was clearly trending up.
Yeah.
So it was a different market, but now it's a normal market to me. It's still technically a seller's market,
yep.
and I think we're far from a buyer's market
yep.
if you're looking at that type of data. But back to the instant offer, it's been around for a long time. And actually, I first ran into it probably 10 years ago on a listing appointment. And I was on the listing appointment, and it was a very market-ready home. It was like perfectly show condition. It was a perfect house to list. And he was in no sort of financial stress, nothing like that. And he goes, "Hey, Adam, those companies that are in town, they buy houses?" I'm like, yeah, I know them. I got some friends that do that. And he goes, "Well, I think I'm going to sell to one of those guys." And
yep.
I'm like, "Brian, like, dude, you're literally throwing away like 30 or 40,000 from what I know I could have netted him, paying
yep.
my commission, netting him versus what he was already thinking he was going to sell his house to." And that was kind of like a little bit of an eye opener for me. And back then, I actually despised those guys.
Yep.
And I know there's a lot of agents that feel that way. They don't like those because they feel like, well, your client's leaving money on the table.
Yep.
Right.
And it's shady, slimy,
like
misleading.
Yeah, totally. But what I learned from that is he didn't care about the money. He cared about his time.
Yes.
And he wanted the convenience. He goes, "I don't have to show it. I don't have to go through any inspections." Now, granted, this was 10 years ago, so it was kind of like that normal market. And he goes, "It's just easier for my family. I get a close on it, and then they're giving me like 30 days post-closing to go move into my temporary house," because he was going to be building a house.
Yep.
And he knew the deal was done. And it was super convenient. He goes, again, it wasn't about the money. It was about him having convenience and time back on his side. And now I still didn't do anything with that, even though it was an eye-opener for me. Like, okay, this is clearly a competitor for me now. And dealt with it a few more times as time led on. But then 4 or 5 years ago is when, again, this all kind of fell in our lap, is more and more people, because we used to do, and we still do it technically, your home sold guaranteed, we'll
yes.
buy it.
Yep.
And that is, we list the home. If it doesn't sell after a certain time, and generally we do 6 months. Now, during a shortened market, we can make that into a 30-day, a 60-day, 90-day, whatever. It's all part of us talking through it.
But you and the client agree to the terms, right?
Yeah.
It's always case by case.
Correct. It was always, now our buyout price did not equal the listing price.
Sure.
There was the discount in there. I call it a convenience fee. But so by us doing that for the last 15 plus years, people just started coming to us and started saying, "Hey, like, would you just buy this from us like right away?"
Before even listing it.
Yeah, before listing it. And I started getting asked that more and more. And I'm like, maybe we should do something with this. Clearly other companies do this and they do it well. I've been always on the riskier side, but I didn't necessarily want to start buying like up 10 plus houses a month. Well, fast forward, and
on rentals and stuff like that sounded like property management.
Yeah, owning rentals. Stacy, if you ask Stacy, she is not a fan of rentals really at all. Now we have rentals, and I keep pushing her to get more and more, but there's a lot of work. There's a lot of information out there. I'm gonna digress a little bit, but like, if you're an investor and you're a first-time investor, I would always encourage you to go try to wholesale / or flip a house versus go buy a rental necessarily.
Yep.
Because you're not getting rich off a rental.
Yep.
Especially with interest rates right now, unless you're putting out a large sum of money, cash flowing is pretty rare right now. Now, during COVID, when interest rates were really low, like that was made it a lot easier. So again, like people started coming to us more and more. So we kind of made it into a thing, and we made it a whole separate business of offering this instant offer. And if I look back of the couple hundred homes that we purchased doing this over the last 4 years or so, 90% of them are folks that just wanted the convenience. They only wanted the easy process. They did not want to deal with, just like the Brian story, they wanted it easier for their family. They didn't want to have to deal with showings. They wanted to be able to close on it, maybe have a few days or a month to move out at their time frame, and didn't have to deal with inspections, appraisals, or any of that. And that is most of what we're doing. Like I just bought one here and I close on it here in a couple of weeks. It's an older couple. They're actually past clients of mine. And they knew I did this. And it's always the last option I give them. I always push for listing it after you fix it up, listing it as is, maybe listing it with a few updates. And then the very last on the totem pole is me purchasing it.
And you're very like straightforward, like this is what it would be for this is what it'd be for this. Like
they know without a doubt they will make more money by putting it on the market, listing it, paying our full commission versus me buying it. They know that. And again, the folks I just bought, I'm not going to say their name because they are a current client and currently under contract. But I came in and I purchased it, and
they asked you about it, or did you bring it up to them?
So they ended up bringing it up.
Okay.
But anymore, a lot of times I end up bringing it up as a last option.
Got it.
Just because I found that they end up asking anyway, so I just try to get ahead of it and bring it up anyway.
It's just part of your usual pitch.
Yeah, but there are a lot of times, like if I go list a house, I'm like, hey, this is a house you definitely list. Like I did another one in Bellevue, great family. It was actually a house I flipped.
Oh.
Stacey did like 2-3 years ago, and they bought it from us. We weren't their agent. So I thought this was interesting. Well, they've reached out to us and said, hey, we know you know the house better than anyone. Can we talk about putting it on the market? But they made it very clear from the get-go. We want to talk to you about you buying it back from us.
We're wow.
Okay. They're moving out of state. And now this house is like perfect, pristine condition. I mean, not only did Stacey do an awesome job remodeling it, but also they have amazing furniture. Like it's like you walked in a Pottery Barn.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, that's every agent's dream to have a listing like that, because you know it's going to go on the market, it's going to sell, and you will probably get a good price. But the problem is sometimes the comps don't always support that higher price.
Like very pushing it.
Yeah, very commonly we sell our flips for more than what the market will bear because it's done up so much nicer than all the rest of the comparables, and buyers will pay for that because they don't have to do it.
People like that.
And we'll talk about remodeling and cost of remodeling here a little bit too. But again, like them as well, they're just like, they just did not want to deal with showings. They were moving into a different, smaller town. They wanted to get some more small town living on a little acreage.
Yeah.
And they wanted to avoid the hassle of having to deal with showing it. They both work from home. So that was a factor.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, that was a factor. So it was pure convenience. And he said up front, like, I know I'll take a haircut on this because, and on that one, I didn't even pay him. I didn't even buy it for what they bought it from me from. But the reality is, you know, if you go sell your house after 2 years,
it's tough to make anything on it.
It's in a normal market. During COVID, that didn't really apply, right? It hardly ever applied. But, you know, in a normal market, generally, what is it, like 3-4 years before you catch up to appreciation, paying real estate agents their fees and title fees, escrow fees, and all that, and then paying the course of paying down your loan, depending on what kind of loan you got too. So them selling after 2 years, they took a little bit of a haircut. But again, and I actually begged them, like, guys, like, you need to list this house. Like, this is a great house to list. They're like, no, we would much rather go down the path of you purchasing it.
That's interesting.
And then the older folks I just bought, their house was a little bit more dated. It's clean. But again, they're moving out of state. They're doing a big move, like total East Coast. And they didn't want to stress about when's it going to happen, because they see homes in their neighborhood sit on the market longer too.
Because normally you're looking at, 30, 60 days is still fairly quick, but people have forgot that, like, 90 days plus is not the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean, most homes are selling within 60 days, I would say, for sure, on the higher price range ones. But normally, I mean, there's always an outlier, but like I feel like most of our listings sold within 3 weeks.
Yep.
If you were to really look at it.
Yep.
That's why I always kind of giggle when people say, oh my gosh, this isn't selling, it's been a week. But yeah, it's total convenience. And then when I buy them, we come to an agreement on price. And generally on that, like when I'm presenting that, if I'm like $30,000 away from hitting the number that they are hoping to get, I generally will go to them and say, hey guys, I can't get to your number. And I tell them this up front, I'm like, if I'm too far apart, I'm not even going to present something because I don't want to tick you off.
Yep.
I don't want to create this bad vibes. It's just, I know what the numbers have to be in order to make sense. And
do you normally ask them what their number is then?
I always try, but most of them come to me and say, hey, we're really trying to get this out of it.
Okay.
Knowing that we're selling to you like this. And then 100% of the time, I've never been to their number.
Yep.
Sometimes I'm real close.
Because people always want more than what you can give them, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've never paid more. Now, there was one case, actually, if I think about it, we're doing one with Alec where we ended up paying her $5,000 more than what she wanted. Because we looked at the numbers and we showed her the data. Here's everything. Like, we feel at this number, this is a more fair price. Because as a real estate agent, you have to make sure you're not, I care about my reputation.
Yep.
Where I don't want to be known as the guy that's gouging everyone and then they can come back and sue us later on.
Totally.
Right? So that's why we are very like upfront on everything, showing them the info and then putting things in our contract to make sure that they understand like, hey, by you not putting the home on the market, you're potentially leaving money on the table.
And we will make money on it.
Yeah.
Potentially. Like that's the point of doing it.
The goal for us is to make money. And now I can't remember how we got sidetracked on that. I was going somewhere with that, but
no, it's okay. So you have today's market, we'll say it's starting to normalize. We've been saying that for a couple of years, but we're starting to see more people coming back to, what are your options or services that you can provide? And I feel like if I wanted to, for example, I wanted to get a coffee, I have the ability to get my car and drive there, or I have the ability to order it on an app, or I have the ability. So if anything, we can list your house, we can provide a cash offer or an instant offer, and we can provide, like you said, some fix, some repair. So it's just an additional option or service that we do provide.
Yeah.
And across the country right now, we're seeing a lot of real estate teams and companies go back to an instant offer because we weren't really seeing it because the homes are flying off the market within
it wasn't
hours.
necessary.
Yeah.
And before we go into the other teams doing this too, the thing that we do too is if a home needs fixed up and they have the available funds to do that, we will help line up all the repairs.
The contractors and everything.
Everything. I mean, there's time, I don't like to really flat out go and say, I'll do this, but there's times where I'm paying the bill and then they're paying me back at closing.
Sure.
But a lot of times if they have the cash to do it, they approve the bid. And if maybe they don't like the bid, we're like, we'll get another contractor in there to bid it out. And then they approve it and they're the ones paying it. We're just basically playing the role as the middle person to help facilitate making it an easier transaction, like that white glove service.
Yes.
Because again, it's just to try to make everything as convenient as we can for clients. And that's the route we always would rather have them do. But again, on the instant offer, we figure out price and then we figure out time frame, and that's a huge benefit for them. And then the other thing I tell them too is like anything you don't want to take with you, leave it and I'll deal with it. I'll donate what I can.
Yeah.
I don't sell any of it because it's never worth our time to do that.
Sure.
Although there is some good treasures on some of that stuff, but we still end up always donating it. And the rest of it goes in the dumpster. And I mean, that's just the reality of it. And
sorry, I was going to say, how fast can they get that offer? Like, is that part of the convenience as you meet them on a Monday and you could potentially close on the next Tuesday or Wednesday, or?
Well, so generally what we do is if I meet someone on a Monday, by Monday night or Tuesday, I have an offer to them.
Okay.
And then the timing is like really up to them. It's, do they want to close it in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks? I will generally do up to about a month of post-occupancy rent-free.
Okay, so you close on it, but then still let them live there.
So they have money in their bank and that part's done. They don't have to stress about that. That money's in their bank and then all they have to do is focus on getting moved out and getting on their next place. Like I have one right now. I had one in Gretna where they had 3 weeks post occupancy. It was a divorce situation. So one was actually Lacey sold him a house, and then she was going to another property, I think a rental, and she's the one that needed more time to get moved out. So he had his money so he could go buy his new one.
Yep.
And then she had her money to where she could just go hire movers and do the things she needed to do to move in. Now they left a bunch of stuff in the house, and that's fine. Actually, I think we already got most of it out. One in Bennington right now, same thing. She's moving out of state, and she wanted the convenience, and she is doing probably a week post occupancy.
I don't think a lot of people do the post occupancy.
No,
I feel like that's an uncommon thing.
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't know if a lot do that or not. We just try to do it to make it easy for them.
The clients. But I'm pretty sure, like, a lot of the times, what the biggest drawback I was seeing was generally you have to follow their rules, and you have to get out kind of in their time frame. Some of the national ones, not necessarily local, but for you to allow, you want to provide convenience. You live in this community. You're going to see these people again. A lot of these national people will come in and they'll never see them again, so they don't care what the experience is like.
Well, and the other thing too with the national companies that I've noticed is these folks will get offers from those national companies. Well, they haven't seen it technically yet.
Yeah.
So they get the offer, and generally their offer is more than what I could pay for it.
Yep.
But it's what happens
Sight
is
unseen.
It's sight unseen, and they have escape clauses in there.
Yeah.
And so then they get within weeks of the closing table, and because of their contingencies that they put into the contract, they have the right then to back out and cancel the contract. So now those sellers are back to square one, where if I give an offer, I'm committed.
It's done.
And now if they come to me and said, hey, I no longer want to sell it to you, can we cancel this contract? I would do that all day long. Contractually, legally, I wouldn't have to, but it's also my reputation I'm looking out for. So if they ever wanted to, I'm like, absolutely. No different than a listing.
Sure.
If someone wanted to cancel a listing with me because they had a change of heart or whatever, never been fired, knock on wood. But
if somebody passed away, circumstances changed.
Job change, or last kid moved out and they decided they want to stay in their house, whatever. We would cancel the listing contract. But the same thing goes if I'm buying it too. But again, it's all for the convenience to have them moving out on their own time. And I found that's where I always find it interesting the amount of people that are electing to go with that option. Now, I would say the only bottleneck with that right now is what is the house worth versus what I feel it is worth. So that's sometimes a disconnect.
And then people look online and they think their house is worth a lot more than what they probably know it is.
That's generally what it is. And then also, I had a seller, for example, that just say, hey, they're like in the mid sevens. This was a mid sevens house. And there was a house, they don't have a pool. Well, there was a house that just sold for $785, but had an in-ground pool, same house plus a pool.
Well, pools are a lot.
And
they're a lot more than people think.
Yeah. And pools are in demand ever since COVID happened.
Yeah.
People started wanting pools. And, so it's like, well, we can't really compare your house to that house because they had an in-ground pool. I mean, go put a pool in these days, you're spending $80,000 plus.
At least.
Yeah, the landscape and all this stuff. So, it's a big difference. Doesn't mean that's how much less your home is worth, but it is worth less.
And pool contractors, last time I checked, sometimes they're out a year to a year and a half.
Yeah.
So you're not getting it anytime soon.
Yeah, totally. So, there's sometimes that disconnect, and then also being able to, again, figure out and then, with us, we just decide, we will push it on prices for sure. Meaning, I'm going to use simple numbers here. Let's say my offer is 175 and they really were wanting 200. And if I look at it and I'm analyzing, I'm like, okay. And they're like, I'm not moving off of 200.
Sure.
And if I look at it, analyze it, and there's times where I'm like, is this a risk I'm willing to take? Could it be a good rental? And I just did this on one actually where they wanted 200 and I was probably 180 range, but I decided at the end of the day, you know what? I'll pay the 200 because it's going to make for a good rental for me.
Sure.
I didn't steal it. I probably got it for market value.
Sure.
But I felt like, you know what? I got it. I secured it. It's going to go into our rental portfolio and it'll be good. So there are times where I push that and go above what I normally would do, but there is sometimes a disconnect there.
Yep.
Where I just can't bridge that gap too.
So the first barrier normally is price.
Yeah.
What do you think is the next thing that kind of like
the next bottleneck is finding the opportunities. If you're talking from the investor side, is
Sure.
like there's just not as many of them, and it's for someone that wants to build their rental portfolio or flipping. It is harder to find those. Those
Yep.
deals are harder and harder to find. Like you're not getting the smoking deals anymore.
that's gone?
That's gone. And as I talk to other investors that just do this, they, where they would normally have 20 in their pipeline, they're down to like 2 or 3.
That's a big difference.
2 or 3 maybes.
And
Where
this
they
is
were
what-
20 for sure, and now they're 2 or 3 maybes.
Well, and think about this. You're employing contractors, right? You're employing people's jobs, livelihoods, right? Like it's not like you, again, you're not like just trying to load up all this cash and then you're just like off to the bank, right? Like you've got contractors to worry about. Again, rentals is a major in-demand thing right now because of the cost. And again, some people can't afford to buy a house, and the rental market is a great opportunity to provide people a great housing option, right? That can't afford to buy a house. So you're doing great work on both sides. If you really think about it, again, you're not in this to screw people over or doing anything wrong, but that's a big deal for contractors too that would probably get nervous.
Well, yeah, even with us, like we have slowed down on the remodel stuff. So then our contractors potentially have to go find, they were working exclusively with us. Well, now they got to go find other work potentially.
Yep.
And then you run the risk. So there's times where I'll just buy a house to give them a project.
Sure.
To keep them busy, even though I know I'm probably not gonna make any money. I might lose money on this.
But you lose more money, honestly, if you didn't have contractors.
Yeah, because then if they go elsewhere, then I can't have them come onto our future jobs where there is an opportunity for us to make money.
Yep.
And that is like, that world too is very tough because the cost to remodel a house 5 years ago versus today
So why don't we talk about that now?
it's double.
That's a lot.
It's in my opinion, it's double. The cost of the goods, the cost of the product, PVC piping, electrical, the outlets, all that stuff has gone up, and then labor cost has gone up
Is
too.
labor still having a problem with contractors?
Oh yeah, totally. Like we have some guys that they're like, even our lawn guy who runs an awesome operation, and he's like, it's hard to compete because if companies like, let's use Kiewit for example, big company, if they're paying $80,000 salaries plus benefits, that's really hard for the smaller lawn guys, the smaller contractors to compete with to get good work because those jobs are available for those types. Or they can go flip burgers for $21 an hour.
Yeah.
So now even our lawn care has increased in pricing too because they have to, because they got to pay their guys more to be competitive. So, and even like someone that's considering remodeling their house, when we talk numbers, they have a number in mind of what they think they can get it remodeled for. And
like if you meet with a client, you're saying,
correct.
And they have the money to do it, and they think they have a $20,000 budget, let's say.
Yeah. Generally, in that situation, like normally you're going to spend 40 to 50 is what I found to do the things that we want to go through.
Because they still think it doesn't cost that much today to do that.
Yeah, because if you haven't remodeled a house in the last 5+ years, and most of them haven't remodeled a house really ever, they just have this assumption, or they've done a Google search.
Sure. Or HGTV or something.
Yeah, and it's like, well, that's, the reason why a lot of these mass builders, for example, can get houses built for the cost that they can is because they're doing it on a mass level.
Sure.
They're buying things at a mass production, so they're getting those discounts. Well, the normal everyday person, myself included, we're not doing enough to where you're going to get those huge discounts.
Yep.
So, and that's your everyday person. And so, yeah, remodeling a house, it always costs more money. Like to go paint a house, for example, let's say it used to cost you $3, you're easily spending $6 to do it or more. The paint's more expensive, the labor is more expensive. And then you got to watch out for quality too. You might get the cheaper guy to do it, but then you're like, are you going to have to redo everything you just did because the paint job is horrible? They missed a ton of spots, which I see you can touch that back up, but like their paint lines are bad. They're got paint all over the tile or wood floors because there's a difference in the blue tape, or
Yeah.
there's different types of painter tape.
True, too.
You got to use the expensive blue
I
tape
know.
to tape stuff off.
Otherwise, you get lines, inconsistent
Yeah, it
dabbing.
bleeds through, and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's a disaster. Or like the folks that just try to do it themselves. That's
Sure.
like always like, hey, if you don't know how to tile, I would never go tile. Like
Yeah.
my lines would be like this, my ground lines would be fat, skinny, they'd be all over the place.
Yep.
And it would just like look like crap. And then a buyer comes in, they're like, okay, you put in new tile, but I got to redo it all.
Yep.
So yeah, that whole disconnect is hard too, because then you got to educate clients
Yep.
and prospective sellers on that. And so we're kind of talking about two different things there. Not only does it affect us on how we buy it, because we know what it costs to do these things,
Yeah.
but also, so that affects the price.
Sure.
But it also, if you're listing it, you got to make sure you're prepping them like, hey, if you were to do this, 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 and this, to increase your price, it is going to cost you more money than you're probably thinking. Now, what I have found is if you go spend 30, and maybe you're thinking it's going to cost you 10, 15, it costs you 30, you can still generally go resell that house for an extra 50.
Because people will notice the difference, and people want a great looking product. They want like you said earlier, the Pottery Barn, if you will, but like the clean lines, the nice colors, the great palette. Like people will pay a little bit extra for that.
Yeah.
So I mean, there is something to be said if you hire it out and you hire the right people. And then something I thought about too is like if you have those contractor relationships, it is a little bit easier for them to pick up your phone call than me or let's say Andy over there call somebody, right?
Well, and that's another thing I found too is on like in our group of contractors, I'm not going to give any names, but what I found is I would go refer them business, assuming they would take on the business.
Sure.
But what I found is, and this was actually Aubrey's husband told me this. And I'm like, that is a great thing. And then I went and talked to these contractors, they're like, this is 100% true.
Oh,
It's one thing to go work on a vacant house. No one's there. No one's watching their every move.
yeah.
It's comfortable. They can go in there, do their own thing.
They put their jams on, they drink, they go out, they don't care.
Yeah, they do whatever they want. And if you're in a client's home, they are living there.
Yeah.
They operate differently. It's almost like they feel uncomfortable. And so a lot of times they don't even want to, if the job's too small, they really don't want to take it. And then if they have to kind of tippy-toe over other folks that live in the home, they're like, yeah, we would much rather work on a vacant flip house than a client's house where they're being lived in. And the other thing is when you're working for a client, you don't necessarily know how they work. How picky are they going to be? Are they going to do a bunch of callbacks? Are they going to be unrealistic of expectations? Are they going to try to add more things in there and keep the price the same? Or like if they're working with someone consistently, like say Stacy, then they know how she operates. They know she pays her bills on time. Like there's no like a 30-day waiting period.
Because they got to pay their people too.
Correct. And they get their money on time. They know how she operates. They know what her expectation is. And she has a high expectation, but they know it.
Yo.
They don't know what a loose cannon client.
That's true.
No offense, anyone. But like how will that operate too? And we can have candid conversations with them and they're okay with that because it's a more of a mutual respect, comfortable conversation where a lot of clients, what I found is they almost talk down to them.
Yep.
It's like, well, we're all the same people. I mean, we're all like human here. So, you can't talk down to them because you're paying them, right?
Totally.
Like, so I know that has definitely been, I found that interesting. And that was actually something we did a party here and we were talking about it. And Joel was like, I bet that's a reason. I'm like, shoot. And I talked to him like, yeah, that is
a
the
legit reason.
So a lot of them are like, hey, we prefer that you don't even refer us off. Like if we can just keep busy with you, that's cool. Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too, like this is just a side thing, but this kind of goes for like a potential someone selling, but also anyone that's like thinking of investing. They're not all wins. And I can give you probably more examples than I would like to admit on losses.
Yeah.
Like we did a flip together. We lost $50,000.
I don't like to think about it, but
that's
at least might have been 60.
Yeah, that's a big loss.
Yeah.
Now, thankfully we had enough wins to outweigh those losses.
Yeah.
But that's a big loss, and you never know when your next loss is.
Yes.
Stacy and we bought one here not too far from us. We were going down the path. Well, the city gets involved. It's in a floodplain. You got to jump through all these hoops with FEMA and the city. it's been sitting vacant for 6 months.
And you guys can't touch it, really.
We can't touch it.
Yeah.
And then you know, you get to the point where you just like, it's the bane of my existence.
Just get rid of this.
Yeah, you want to just get rid of it. And that's kind of where Stacy came to, is like, I'm done with this project. I don't even want to think about it anymore.
Just get it away from me.
Well, we just sold it. We lost $138,000. So again, we didn't go into it thinking we were going to lose. We actually thought this was going to be a good win for us.
Totally.
And you know, and the reason why is we found out the windows were shot.
And windows are not cheap.
Windows were
I know
not
that.
cheap.
Windows are not cheap.
We had to do massive foundation work because so much of it was hidden. Then when you get the drywall off, it's like, oh, wow, that foundation is, I mean, it was literally bowing in probably almost a foot. I mean, massive. I mean, you could see the dirt through the block foundation. And so, you know, you come into things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, fast forward, that was $138,000 loss, which is supposed to be closing here soon. So
Get it
I'm
out of
looking
here.
forward to that one.
But it's like any investment. Some investments you win,
Yeah.
and some you lose. And that's the point of investments,
Yeah, it's
right?
like all
if
the-
they're all wins, we would all do it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we did another one too where I bought it, had an in-ground pool, and he had a contractor, this was like 5, 6, 7 years ago, come and say, oh, I can repair all this for like $6,000. So I'm thinking in my head, okay, it's going to cost me $8,000 to repair this.
Yeah.
Well, fast forward, got a couple different pool contractors out there, and people I trust, and they're like, that would be a Band-Aid. That would be a short-term Band-Aid. So me thinking like, I'm going to resell this. So now I'm passing on this Band-Aided pool to
You don't wanna do
someone. I'm going to for sure get the call back. So I made the decision to rip it out. Well, it's in Bellevue. And whenever you rip out a pool, you got a pool permit. And $25,000 later, the pool's out.
Yeah.
And then you got to put sod in. And now I'm going there like almost every day to make sure the water.
Because you got to fill it, right?
Well, yeah. Then you had to bring dirt in. That was including the $25,000.
Okay, got it.
But then you add sod on top of that,
Yep.
and then and then the watering cost because you got to soak it with water.
Yep. Otherwise it'll die.
Yeah, but you know that one we went from we thought we were going to make some okay money on it to now we're like we're making less money if we were flipping burgers at Burger King. So yeah, you know, again, they're not, and again, those are just a couple of the recent losses I have right now. But I mean, you're talking, there's examples we talked about over $200,000 in losses right there.
And that's part of it.
Yeah, that's tough. Like you don't know, but you always have to process that when you're looking at it at any potential investment. So
Because with you, just really quick, like with an instant offer, I want to make sure this is clear because I feel like, you know, again, it's,
we jumped all over the place.
well, we always kind of do, but I think at the end of the day, you go in there and you buy it with no contingencies,
None.
no appraisals,
No appraisal, no inspection.
repair, no inspections, right?
It's my visual inspection when I'm in the house.
So it's whatever you visualize. So if there's some issues, right, like you're mentioning that the client knows about and they don't even tell you, I'm not saying they do, but they may not know either without taking the walls
A
out.
lot of people have no idea what the state of their house is in.
Yeah, they
like-
just don't know.
Yeah, because they haven't done an inspection forever. You know.
So you buy it basically as is, instantly for whenever they want to close. Sometimes they stay afterwards, let's say at no cost. But when you say instant offer, I mean, you literally give them an offer that night. They can essentially close, we'll say in a week or 2 weeks, like you said, and then they have the ability to leave. And that's when you repair / tear it apart and find out what you're going to find. Because you don't do any tearing apart before. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and back on the team stuff here to finish out, like it is, you know, there's a lot of big teams that are really going. I mean, obviously we've done it for a while, and our team knows, and that's actually how we get a lot of our instant offer buys. Is the team just knows this, so they give it as a solution, and a lot of the purchases we've done, actually all the pending ones, other than 2 right now, the 2 that are relocating out, they bought another house, and in a market that's somewhat competitive, still considered a seller's market, most sellers don't want a home sale contingency.
Yeah, they're not taking them right now.
And then sometimes they want you, that listing agent counters back, say, hey, we want the home on the market in 2 days. Well, no one can go effectively list a house in 2 days and do it the right way. You got to make sure you get good pictures, it's staged, it's tidied up so it doesn't look like crap, it's showable.
Andy knows about that,
Yeah,
right?
Andy
like
knows
we just
all about
slap
that.
it all together and it'll look good.
Yeah, so this is an option if they have a house that they really want.
Yes.
And it's identified. Well, and if that seller's not willing to take a home sale contingency, well, this is that solution.
It is a great solution because you're still paying them a good rate and they can drop that contingency and keep their dream house, let's just say that
Yeah.
for that scenario.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest reason why we want to do this and keep pushing it out there, is because it does offer a great solution for that and the people that want convenience, which the instant offer where they're going to go buy someone's house, that's a convenient thing too. And then they don't have to scramble to get their house ready because they're already stressed about purchasing. That's a big step. And then they got to worry about selling their house too.
Yeah.
That's another big step. Prepping your house for sale is a lot of work. So this is eliminating that stress of prepping your house. If you want to successfully sell your house in today's market, you still have to be a showcase type home. Like you have to present yourself very well to stand out above, especially with increased inventory.
Totally. If there's more options out there, you got to stand out. And if you have animals, you work from home, think of all the times, let's just say you get 15 or 18 showings.
Yeah.
That means 15 to 18 times you got to leave your job, interrupt what you're doing, get your pet somewhere, right? Like it's a big inconvenience to move. And sometimes we forget about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and on that too, like I do find it interesting how some of these larger teams that we know and you network with a lot too, where they're definitely going in that direction
We've seen a
more.
massive shift there.
And it's, to me, they're doing it because they're doing it to offer, it's part of their white glove service,
Yes.
right? Like
Yep.
it's just
Totally.
another funnel to not only it could be an income producer for them down the road, but also it's a way for them to move more product.
Yeah.
And
Well, and you
sell
don't want
more
to say no
homes.
to a client,
Yeah.
right?
Well, yeah, that's why I pay more sometimes than I probably should. But
Yeah, because you want to make sure they provide a good service. And if you, let's just say for that example, let's say it's $10,000 more than you wanted, right? But you might have a repeat client, somebody's happier, they moved out, right? Like, and they know when they're moving into a house that you have renovated or flipped, that you're not cutting corners. Like,
Yeah.
like you just said a minute ago, if it was a Band-Aid approach, you won't do it,
yeah.
you know?
Well, and it too, and so I know, but I do think this is important too. Is the other thing that we do is we work with listing agents. So say if there's a house, like there's a lot of agents in this marketplace that know that we purchase homes,
Yeah.
and they know that we pay more than your average investor. So I have agents, I'm not going to say who, but like they're at different brokerages. They'll call me up and say, hey, I know you buy houses. Can you come over and look at this house? They don't want to do it. I'm in no position. Whether they're not in a financial position, they're out of that. Like maybe they're a little older. They just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right. They come in, we negotiate a price. They still get their commission. So I don't take a commission on the buy side. They get their normal listing side commission.
Yep.
The seller knows it.
Yep.
And then I buy it.
Yep.
And so,
And that's also unique, Adam, because people aren't doing that. I'm just telling you, like the national guys or the bigger people that are coming in, they're not doing that.
yeah.
They're just basically taking the sale, and now the listing agent is out of money.
Yeah. Or, they'll go there would be they go sell them something else, but they're out always
totally.
buying something else too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but yeah, we always make a point like, hey, if you have a listing agent, because we send out mailers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if they have an agent, like, hey, we'll work with your agent all day long because we don't want to get a bad rep in the agent community either.
Again,
too.
we're still real estate agents in
Yeah.
the city. We're going to work with these people at one. That's what's unique about real estate is you're going to work with this person again on the buy side or the sales side or on the flip side or whatever. You're going to see these people again. Like sometimes you're in competition, and then sometimes you're their friend the next time because you need them to take your offer.
Yeah.
So you would never want to have a bad reputation.
Yeah, totally. So again, the point of us talking about this was number one, to make sure you guys knew that we did do this. I think for real estate agents is like, I think any real estate agent should always look at potentially buying homes for investment properties. Again, you got to figure out where you're at. If you're not making a certain amount yearly, you should probably not do rentals necessarily, but it could be a great solution for your clients to do this. You can always reach out to us. I can kind of tell you how I've done it. And we didn't even talk about the banking side of it too, but that's a whole nother conversation. But, so it's a great tool, great solution for your clients, great opportunity for you to pick up investment properties as a real estate agent. And then for the public, it's just a great solution to avoid hassle.
Sure.
And
not losing out on your dream house.
correct.
If you have a home sale contingency or working around your time frame, not having strangers coming in your house, right? Like, and just providing, we have a service for you.
Yep, totally. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense, guys. Thank you for listening, and let Kobe know if you guys have any questions.